I would like to welcome you to Poland, to Wrocław. I want to welcome you to Saule Technologies, the first company in Poland and in the world to commercialize perovskite solar cells. I have always been fascinated by solar energy and how to make better use of it. Discovering the possibilities of this material was fascinating. It was worth dropping everything and devote all my time to developing this technology. I've always been fascinated by science, and that's how I moved from Poland to Barcelona, and then from the University of Barcelona back to Poland with my own startup. A startup that Piotr Krych and Artur Kupczynas helped me set up. From the startup we went to a complete organization which allows us to redefine the world of renewable energy.
For us, there was a very strong focus on not only the technology development, but at the same time scalability as well as mass production and finding the appropriate clients for this technology.
Today our company employs an international team of experts. There are about 40 people from 15 different countries. Our pioneering production line is unique on a global scale. It enables us to produce perovskite on polymer films at low temperatures, up to minus 100 degrees Celsius. And our manufacturing process is based on an inkjet technology, which is a process similar to inkjet printers. And our process also incorporates a robot which moves the substrate from station to station. We can use perovskite cells on any surface, really, whether it's spherical or undulated. In fact, we can use any shape and size. Perovskites have a number of very interesting optoelectronic properties: translucency, flexibility, very high power to weight ratio, and a unique method of manufacturing. Our final product is very flexible. It can be compared to a laminated sheet of paper. At the same time, it is highly resistant to weather conditions. It can withstand hailstorms or strong winds. We are proud of what we have achieved, where we are, and the journey we have made. 2021, we will be the first in the world to commercialize perovskite cells in 4 areas: building integrated photovoltaics, building attached photovoltaics, Internet of Things, and e-mobility. Ladies and gentlemen, over 20 years ago, Stanisław Lem gave this famous interview, The World on Edge, and when he was asked what the future of the world would look like, he said that the future of the world is renewable energy. And I think that in the midst of the Lem year, on the 100th birthday of Lem, if Lem were still alive, he would have been proud that in Poland the technology is being developed that will revolutionize the renewable energy sector, and I will be the MC of this event. And I would like to ask Olga Marcinkiewicz, CTO of Saule, but primarily a great woman who developed the perovskite cell, and this is of course what we'll be talking about. So Olga, please join us on stage. I would like to ask Piotr Krych, who is the CEO of Saule, Artur Kupczynas, co-CEO of Saule, Dariusz Chrząstowski, who is the chairman of the supervisory board of Saule, a shareholder and a representative of Haidio Savade from his energy holding, that's a Japanese company, and Dawid Zieliński. He is a member of the supervisory board of Saule and is the CEO of Columbus Energy. Olga, could you tell us how come that out of so many different disciplines and topics in physics, you selected this one, the renewable energy source, and you decided to revolutionize this segment? Well, I wasn't born with this idea, but there was a string of events that led me to this moment. So there were many opportunities that I made use of. There was a lot of hard work. Frequently, I had to follow my heart and not the pressure of the surroundings. And that was a string of events that led me to this place. And scientific predispositions, I suppose this is something that I was born with, because from the youngest age I was interested in nature, various structures and construction and this sort of tools and toys, and this is a natural consequence of some internal skills and propensities. Whenever I talk to innovators and inventors, I always ask them this question: do you remember the moment when you realized that you created something great, that you created cells which really have a huge potential to revolutionize this area, which according to all kinds of reports is the future of our planet? Yes, I actually remember this moment. I remember this moment. This was one of the first cells that I built using the perovskite material. That was after hours somewhere at the university. There is always a little bit more room there and you can work in peace. And I remember when I switched on a sunlight simulator, which is a piece of equipment that allows you to test whether the cell is working or not. And when I first read the reading of how much current was flowing through the cell, and this was the first attempt and it worked, and there was quite a lot of current. That was a voltmeter. That was a piece of equipment for measuring the capacity of the cell. And at that moment, I was shocked by this capacity, because when I worked with other materials and different technologies before, you had to do all sorts of tricks to raise this capacity. You needed a lot of attempts and many changes. And here, at the first try, there was this boom, wow, this really works. And I remember that there was one colleague that I was working with, and we have been working together since then. And he saw that event, and he saw me actually jump in joy. I hugged him and I told him, Juan, look, this is the future. And then after some time, when I set up the company, and I guess we will be talking about this today, Juan was the first person who requested that he would like to help me and would like to keep helping me. And he's the first foreigner who was hired by Saule, and he's still with us. So, Piotr, you were the first to notice Olga and the perovskite cells. So how come that among dozens of inventions and ideas and innovations, you actually noticed this one and you decided to help Olga and not somebody else? That was at the moment in my life when we were looking for innovations. We had some savings. We decided we wanted to do something unusual. We read a very simple article about Olga and her invention in Gazeta Wyborcza Daily, and that was just a few sentences. It was published on the 1st of April, so April Fool's Day, and we used some contacts to get the telephone number of Olga, and I called her and I said, Olga, we don't know one another, but I know that you need some help because you're having a problem with all sorts of people, the corporations and the universities, and maybe we would meet for a beer. And she said, yeah, then come and join me in Valencia. So we flew to Valencia. We actually to go to the beach and talk, and we got up at our hotel, and Olga came, and we saw her in the hallway and in the foyer, and I was shocked. I saw there is this little girl, and I thought, well, what can she offer to us? So we took a tram to her lab, and we actually got lost. It took us an hour and a half instead of half an hour. But she used this time to talk to us, and then she invited us to the lab with her then tutor, professor. She showed us the material, and we were shocked. We immediately, thoughts came to our minds about where we could use this, and we were convinced that this should really be implemented and commercialized, and we gave her an offer on the very same day, and her boss said, don't talk to them, they are useless, they are not offering enough, there's no point talking to them. But we went to have some dinner, we actually got some trust was built, and then we went to Valencia, and we were waiting for Olga to call us, and a month later I decided I'll just call her, give her my best wishes, and I'll tell her, I wish you all the best, whatever path you choose, for that path to be right for you. And I called her and I said, Olga, maybe we failed, but I want to wish you all the best so that you succeed, so that you choose such a path that it will lead you to success. And she said, well, so what, you're dropping me? And she said, what? Well, because I said, well, you haven't called us back. And she said, come on, I'm moving to Poland. I'm actually buying an apartment. I'm going to set up a company there, so get ready. But revolution is a word that is used very often today. Everything is revolutionary, and this is the first event that I'm opening and saying a revolution, because I believe that this can be a revolution in this country, and that this project has a huge global potential. So do you know that? Do you believe in this, that this technology has a global potential? Very much so. Now, why? We have only one life. We have a limited amount of time. This is the only resource that we have absolutely no impact on it. Time flows, and that's it. So let's use this time in such a way that we can develop something that really will be revolutionary and that really will change the world into something completely different than what we have came to see. Let's leave something new after ourselves, and we decided on the technology that Olga developed. A question to Dariusz. You have combined a startup with one of the largest investors in Japan, which is frequently impossible for heads of states, for prime ministers, for associations, for business associations. I have been the witness of hundreds of attempts to reach investors by chambers of commerce, Polish, US, or Japanese, and you managed to do this. And did you have a feeling that this is something great when you were doing this, where you felt that you are contributing to the development of a huge project? Well, it is a challenge, because you have a crash of two worlds. You have the world of investors. You have Olga, Piotr, and Artur, who are very young and very passionate. When you said that they are very young, I saw some doubt in their eyes, but yes, you are very young and you're doing great things at a very young age. I'm talking about the moment when we first met, and I want to say that on the other side then you have a world of people, investors, who are much more experienced, and those two worlds have to find a common language. And it was very lucky that it was Olga, Artur, and Piotr that I met, because this really helped me in my job. Investors are actually looking for time-proof projects all the time. So this was not some unusual event, but the problem is to present those projects skillfully to them so that they are reliable, because the main challenge is that the project cannot be verified at the moment it is born. It's just a vision, and the vision that they presented was absolutely phenomenal. It was a vision which really demonstrated how the world will change as a result of this technology. It was a vision where the idea itself is visionary, it's time-proof. The idea of how to produce this cell Well, this is an idea that can compete with the greatest technology centers in the world. And the quality of the team, the quality of the people, and the passion and the energy are unique. And those are once again characteristics that allow this team and this company, our company, to compete with the best, with the greatest development centers in the world. So there was no single factor that made Hideo Savada to invest in this project. There was a series of different factors, but definitely this was an achievement of these people. David, I wanted to ask you, this is a more business-oriented question. Let's forget about the fact that you're a member of the supervisory board of Saule. I wanted to ask you, as an expert in the renewable energy sector, what examples of applications of those perovskite cells could we see around us in a couple of years? Where could we find them from, and I'm talking about different sectors? Definitely, perovskite cells are a completely new thing in our world. I've been working on this, this has been worked on by very many centers, from Oxford to Chinese, and I'm sure Japanese centers are also doing research on this, and the Americans are also doing research on this. But we are the first in the world at Saule who have transferred this from the lab to the production line. This is an aspect that is really important to emphasize before we talk about potential applications. Because look, everyone wanted to fly to the moon. Everyone, the Chinese, the Russians, the Americans were arming themselves, but only one of those countries managed to be the first to land on the moon. And this is the same thing that we are seeing today, that the production line has been transferred from the lab. This is a phenomenal event. And someone in a letter to the Saule management board, actually Mr. Hideo Savada, emphasized that this management team and the whole crew deserve a lot of recognition, because look, in terms of implementations, the simplest ones would be IoT. You could have this on the back of your mobile phone, on the cover of your laptop, on the body of your car. This cell is gaining more and more efficiency, so it would be used or could be used everywhere. I think one of those cells has already gone into space. I do hope that it will find its way to Polish satellites. I believe that some projects like this will appear soon. Not to mention how you can use perovskite cells on buildings, whether existing buildings or new buildings. Architects will get a completely new tool for designing energy balanced objects. So the world revolution here is the right world. Of course, in a few years, apart from Saule, there will be some more manufacturers, better, worse, with bigger or smaller budgets. But what is important is that we do not make the mistake in Poland again, like we made it with graphene. We have a Polish technology. It's supported by a Japanese investor, but this is a Polish technology. We, as Columbus, are also investing in this technology. We don't want to stop. And soon we will have the opportunity to scale up what we see behind us to every continent, every country, on every production line, from manufacturers of construction materials to e-mobility components. Every one of them, I believe, will be able to add this production line to their entire ecosystem and produce perovskite components in a continuous process. And I hope that they will use Saule technology. Yes, so evolution and revolution. This technology is behind us. It's in the clean room. I hope I'm right. Clean room, because this technology requires complete sterility, So you need to see this after the meeting. This is all glassed in. You can see how it works, but you cannot enter for safety reasons. And I would like us to walk along the production path of those cells that we're talking about. Olga will be our narrator. She will be talking to us about what we are seeing. And please screen the first movie that shows the first step in the production. And Olga will tell us what we see in it, and we'll follow on until the very end, until you see the ready product.
It's the first stage in the production process. So I'll be speaking after the screening. Olga, what we have just seen, could you tell us a little bit more about this? So what you have just seen, this is the very stage in the production process. As we have just mentioned, the entire production line is in one room, and this is because we want to secure our photovoltaic cells against dust, against little particles. During the printing process, we want to avoid any kind of defects. That is why, when we enter the production line, we have to put special overalls. That's why you saw a person in this funny piece of clothing. This person looked like a crazy scientist and also like a member of medical staff fighting against COVID-19. So this is because we want to secure our PV cells against any kind of particles that we bring on our clothes. So the production starts with a bale of polymer foil, so something that you can find at any printing shop. So this bale is transferred on a table where you cut this foil into pieces, and at workstations, these work areas, these are roughly 1 square meter in size. Each workstation does a different thing. The first station is there to cut a piece of polymer foil to adjust to the size of 1 square meter. Then we will see a few more stages in the production process. We are now moving to the second stage. This brief video has demonstrated the second stage in the production process. So there is this convecting electrode that transfers the whole thing to the next stage. Now, depending on the how far these cells are located from each other, we may adjust the whole printing process to this. This obviously depends on what we want to use these cells for. This production line can be used for a variety of purposes. This means that the production line can turn out large modules, but it can also turn out smaller modules. The station, you could see a laser that demarcates contours these are like pathways. So whatever you print out later on, we have defined shapes. So depending on the type of shapes, we can adjust these cells to particular areas, to their characteristic traits, to their specifics. Now, imagine that you have a blind. Now, these are extremely long and extremely narrow. So we have these strips, these straps of that we later on combine into a blind, and we do it in such a way that there is no contact in between these strips of foil. So this is a different between the silicate cells and the perovskite cells. So let's now move on to the third video. Now, this is the printing station, because what we do, and this is at the very heart of our technology, this is inkjet technology. We wanted to use printers right from the start. We have at the very beginning, we had what we could see was a laser and a big workstation, but at the very beginning we only had a printer. To define modules at the time, we used such a printer. We could do it in a resolution which is not as great as it is now, but at the beginning, at the very start, it was very important that we could do it in a way that we did. And that was because we also watched our spending. So we saw we were printing crystals, we were printing layers, a layer upon layer. We use perovskites for the purpose, and please bear in mind that perovskites are crystals. This is not an easy thing to print out such a thing, because once these solvents evaporate, a variety of chemical processes happen, and we have to adjust the whole production process so that we achieve the greatest effect there is. Now, perovskite, let me get this clear, is a natural mineral, but what you do, you obtain perovskite through a synthetic process. Please bear in mind that perovskites are both natural and synthetic. We use synthetic perovskites, which offer great capacity, which is extremely beneficial to our production process, because again, we also don't need to use minerals. We do not need to extract minerals. We obtain these through a chemical process. We have a number of suppliers. Some of these chemical substances are produced on our own, because we want to be absolutely independent from the supply chain. However, those that are within easy reach are used in our company, because in so doing we can achieve great quality for a small price. Please bear in mind that this printing process is carried out in low temperatures and we use a printer that you might be able to use at home. The printer that we are using is slightly more expensive than those printers that you use at homes. Now, no matter whether you print out 1 square centimeter or 5 square centimeters or 10 square centimeters, this final result, we are happy about this. The quality is the same. So no matter whether you work in a smaller lab or in a larger lab, now, no matter what instruments you're using, if you want to build a production line, then companies, companies fail at this process of transferring technology from a lab to a production line, which is why we want to use printers with printing heads, large printing heads, which were used for commercial purposes, which were used for printing big billboards, big posters, and we realized that at one point in time, once we have developed our production line, we will be able to use these printing heads for the purpose of printing PV cells. This drop of ink or this drop of perovskite solution has to be used in such a way that we can use later on to convert to transfer electric current to the best of its capacity. We were trying to produce, we have been able to produce the large printer. We were able to develop very efficient printing heads, and here you go. We have the final effect, and this is a wonderful effect. This is a great success. The next workstation well, we have different layers, but what you have to make sure is that all solvents have evaporated. So before you add subsequent layers, then you need to transfer the whole thing to a workstation where you where all these layers evaporate. I can't let you in on all the details, but I can assure you that it's all working great. Let's move on to the fifth film then. It is striking how automatized the entire process is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we can see here, we're almost at the end of the production process. What we have just seen, these are those polymer foils covered with this perovskite ink, and now the robot transfers the foil that is almost completed, and this is where we have the loading station where these layers of foil are just put layer upon layer, and then we move on to the final stage in the production process. I understand that what we have just seen is a polymer foil covered with those perovskite cells. Yes, that's right. This is working. We have perovskite cells in different sizes. Now, but we also need to secure these cells against ambient weather conditions, any kind of interferences. Now, because what you can even do is you can simply scrape off this cell from the foil. So at the final stage of the process, these perovskite cells are laminated, which means that they are covered with a type of foil which is there to secure these cells against water, against any other substances coming from outside, but also it is there to secure these cells against any mechanical damage. At this production line, we also are able to combine these large modules into ribbons, which means that if we print out a square meter of such a foil, we can then combine these. We can combine 10 such square meters, 10 such modules, which means that at the end we have a long ribbon, and as a result we can cover huge spaces, huge areas with such modules. Let's move on to the last video in which we can see how these ribbons can be used. This video, as mentioned before, shows our production line. This production line is able to produce single modules of large sizes and also smaller modules in greater quantities. Now, if we need additional electronics, then this modular production process allows us to add something between one workstation and the other. We had small cells before the lamination process here in the video, and we added small diodes in the film. So that was the final film that showed what you can add just before the final lamination process. We found it very important that our production line was as agile as possible. We began the development process. The first concept for this production line was created 3 or 4 years ago, and if we go back to those times, I now find it very important and very beneficial that we made the whole process quite agile, which means that we can skip one workstation, that we can, for example, turn these big modules into a ribbon, that we can add this or that. So in these few films, we could see the whole production process. It seems short, but this can be translated into years of your work. But now we're talking about the launch of our factory. This is the moment. Let's move to the ribbon, to this large red ribbon. Let's make this symbolic gesture. Let's cut the ribbon and open the factory so that we can now enjoy these great miracles of modern technology. So we've got the scissors now, they are ready. Olga is coming first. So now this is a momentous event, a historic moment. Now everybody has cut the ribbon, and there we go. The factory is now open. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now opening a new chapter in this beautiful history. It is our hope that this history continues as long as possible. We would like to now ask our heroes to the stage so that photo reporters can have your photos taken. So please join us on stage again. So this is the time for a photo session. Let's make this moment continue. Let's record this very important moment so that those of you who watch us either on the internet or in front of your TV screens, please bear with us for a moment. There is great interest from the public in the project. We can see it now. We can see how many photo reporters are here with us. Now, shall we have a peep into the production line through this little glass window that shows us how the whole production process works? But what we have seen here, this is not only the revolution, but also the evolution of the sector that is the true future of our planet. We are talking about the environment, we're talking about future generations here.